happened here over a half-century ago. Most Americans, however, are so inured to seeing cities being torn down and rebuilt that they are like those carefree students on their holiday. They seem not to be aware, or much care, that the lovely beaches, the beautiful orchards and vineyards, and the rolling fields of France and Belgium and Germany were once soaked with the blood of hundreds of thousands of young men. For a truer picture of the carnage of World War II, one must look to the cities, not the battle sites, which often as not now resemble well-tended parks. The healing power of nature is evident in the countryside. Vines, wildflowers, and grasses cover the shell holes and bomb craters. Bones of unknown war dead still work their way to the surface, or are accidentally turned up by plows and spades. And hapless farmers still occasionally fall victim to the random unexploded shell or landmine long buried in the soil. But instead of ravaged farmlands and the lanes and byways ripped up by the passage of thousands of tanks and trucks and armored vehicles, the fields are much as they were before the total war came to these bucolic regions. Man-made structures can be restored and reconstituted only by other men, however, not by nature. And it was the urban environment, with its villas, houses and palaces, apartment blocks, factories, government buildings, churches and cathedrals, schools and shops, that was the scene of the greatest devastation. This sort of destruction could never be imagined until the 20th century and the birth and development of a new form of warfare. This new war bypassed the armies clashing in the field. It was waged hundreds, often thousands of miles from any battlefront. This campaign was against the civilian population, which, as war has become more brutal, has increasingly become the target and borne the brunt of military operations. In the great cities of Germany, visitors are largely oblivious to what predated the ubiquitous glass towers, the pedestrians-only shopping areas, and the almost too wide streets and expressways. To be sure, many historic structures, indeed whole areas of cities, have been reconstructed exactly as they were. But pre-war urban Germany, that congested, vibrant, thousand-year-old architectural museum, was washed away in a rain of bombs and could never be wholly reclaimed. For some cities, such as Berlin, the rain of fire was constant, day after day, night after night. But for one city, there had been only 2 raids in the more than 5 years that Germany had been at war. Both had been relatively minor attacks, so the people of Dresden were lulled into that false security that is often a prelude to a great disaster. When their storm came, it was a firestorm, and the destruction and death were on a scale not hitherto imagined in warfare. The Dresden raid, on 13th through 14th of February 1945, by an Anglo-American force of over 1,000 planes, has been a source of controversy, debate, and denial for 6 decades. It is one of the most famous incidents of the war, yet one of the least understood. It has led to rumors and conspiracy theories, to wrecked reputations, and to charges of war crimes. And it is another reason for the question that has been asked millions of times after the battlefields have been cleared, the wounded gathered up, the dead buried, and the monuments raised. It is a simple question. Why? The Dresden story is one with particular relevance to our own era. The moral issues presented by war, and especially aerial bombardment, are timeless. The efficacy of bombing continues to be an article of faith among not only leaders of armies but leaders of nations, even though non-combatants, people far from the lines of combat, are most often the victims. In Germany, hundreds of thousands of civilians, mostly women, children, and old men, died as the cities were blasted away. Since the advent of air power in World War I, the bombardment of